Good afternoon, sisters.
Good afternoon.
And brothers. I am Andrea Sadler. I'm also known as Dragonfly. And I will tell you about why my name's Dragonfly at some point during my story. And I want to invite all of you to my Dragonfly sistership on Facebook, which I will do later. So I'm very nervous, as you can tell. Dr. Tina Lewis said this was epic.
Yep, it is.
This is epic for me.
Go ahead, girl. We got you, girl.
How many people are highly sensitive people out there?
Oh.
So my whole life, I've been very shy. And I always wanted to be on the stage. I wanted to sing, I wanted to dance, I wanted to entertain people, and I wanted to speak my truth. But as a child, I was very, very quiet and shy. And I lived in a world where I felt energy, I felt spirits, and when I talked about it, I was mocked. So I zipped it up. But something bigger than me pushed me forward to pursue my dreams. And as a child and growing up and getting older, I always wanted to travel the world and just pursue my dreams. And like I said, I wanted to sing and dance and make art. And just the other thing was I was very interested in spirituality. And I wanted to learn about the peoples of the entire world. And at age 9, my family, my mother and father split up. And I decided that there was no such thing as security. And that I was alone in the world. And that I would make the world my home. So as I grew up, I would dream, and I finally went to Paris, France when I was 19. And I wanted to be a model. And it didn't work out, but I did end up doing that when I came back to Canada. I just want to back up a little because I'm nervous, so I want to tell this story that a week leading up to this, I would find feathers on the ground. And normally I find brown feathers and dove feathers and white feathers. But the week before this conference, I kept finding blue feathers from the blue jay. Wow. And I found a little one, and then I found a big one, and then I found a teeny tiny one the day before I came. It was literally like the size of my fingernail. And I thought, that's interesting. What is spirit telling me with the medicine of the blue jay? And a year ago on my birthday, when I took a walk, there were like 100 blue jays flying around, and I imagined that they were wishing me happy birthday because they were walking like crazy. So before coming to this, I thought, interesting. Blue is the color of the throat chakra. And that has been something I have been trying to overcome my whole life. So coming here is epic.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm an actress, actually. You would never think that I'd be so nervous because I've been on the stage. In fact, I did a one-woman show during the pandemic, and Hillary and Bill Clinton were sitting front row center. Wow. So that was a huge moment of my life when I told a one-woman story. Now, at age 17, I was nominated agricultural queen in the town where I lived north of Toronto. And we got a list of questions that we might be potentially asked. And one of the questions was, what qualities do you look for in a husband? And I was like, what? What a sexist question. What if I'm a lesbian? What if I don't want to get married? You see, I grew up with a mother who worked 3 jobs, single mother. My father was an artist who lived in a very abstract world, and money was not part of it. And I learned very young, when all my father's support checks bounced, that a woman must never rely on a man. Or financial support. I mean, we can rely on them for support in other ways, but not to rely on them financially. So at this moment where I got on the stage when I was 17, there was a drum roll. Can I get a drum roll, please? And the question is, what qualities do you look for in a husband? The floor starts moving underneath me. I feel like I'm in water. Each person in the audience triples. And I could not think. And I blurted out, I want someone who's smart and nice, thank you very much. And I wanted a hole to drop open so I would drop into it in that moment. And I vowed on that day, because I was so humiliated, that I would get over my fear of speaking my truth. Because I didn't get to express what was really in my heart that day. And I became a fashion model. I became an actress. And just recently I had 2 one-woman shows where I was like, had a lead role in a one-woman show. That was like a huge breakthrough for me. But the final frontier for me was speaking from my heart in front of you.
Yeah.
So I use the talking feather because I was taught in the Indigenous culture to use a talking feather when you speak. And it helps me. So I came into the world on February 7th, 1962. I turned 60 this year. And I had stars in my eyes and a heart full of big, big dreams. Not just for me, but for the entire world. And I set out on my dreams and on my heroine's journey. I went to Europe, I lived in France, and I was a nanny, and I tried to become a model, but that just didn't work out. So it did work out when I came back home. And then at age 21, I went to university. I wanted to study acting, but my stepfather said, that's not very practical. So you need to do something practical. So I thought, well, I like to write. So, okay, I'll study journalism. And I studied journalism, but it was very dry. I wanted to be more of a creative writer. Well, that summer, I thought, I'm going to stay with my father. I spent a year in journalism, and then I thought I was going to switch to broadcast journalism so I could be on being seen as a broadcast journalist. That summer, I was supposed to stay with my father because he left when I was 9 years old. And I only saw him twice a year for about a week. So I thought, well, this will be great to spend some time with my stepfather and my stepmother, who I loved. They were both artists. They lived this very interesting life. There was art everywhere. There was classical music. And it was interesting. We had philosophical discussions, and it just seemed so much more interesting than the kind of beige world that my mother and stepfather lived in. It was more resonant with my heart. But after 3 days of being there at 21 years old, my stepmother kicked me out. And she said, I don't want her here. I heard her screaming, I don't want her here, get her out. So I called up my friend Tim Savage, and we hitchhiked to Montreal to see a punk rock concert called The Dead Kennedys. And on the way, in the pouring rain, as we were hitchhiking in the dark, a priest picked us up. We thought that was kind of interesting, as we were going to this Dead Kennedy concert. Anyways, I felt protected that a priest picked us up. It made me feel safe. And then I went to Montreal, where I discovered, I visited some friends, a friend who lived there. His roommate was studying film production, and he was getting a degree. And I thought, oh my God, I never knew you could learn how to make films and get a university degree. So I thought, this is perfect. I can be an actress, I can be a singer, I can write, I can use photography, I can use art, I can make stories. I love all these things. It's everything I love in one. So I moved to Montreal and I live with 5 Quebecois, I call them my Quebecois family, 5 roommates. And I would like to know the time because I don't know when I started and I don't see a clock.
14 minutes.
Okay. So I better fast forward. One of the things that happened to me that was very transformational was I went to this place called the Foufou Electric, means the electric buttocks, and it was a punk rock club. And I didn't know anybody in Montreal, and the guy that I kind of fell in love with was with the punk rock girl. So I was there by myself, and there were these people with mohawks, and it became like this hellish kind of world, this dark world, and lights flashing, and mohawks, red mohawks. And then I saw this woman like dancing on the dance floor, and she looked like Broken Sticks, and she was looking right at me, and I felt this sense of alienation. And I thought, oh my God, she's reflecting how alienated I feel, and everybody feels so alienated in this dark punk rocky place. And I walked home at 3 a.m. in the pouring rain again. And I thought, we as a society on this planet are not doing very well. And I had this vision of a snowball getting faster and faster, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, we have to do something or we're going to destroy ourselves. We're hurting each other. We're hurting the planet. We need to do something. And I thought, I'm going to stand outside in this rain until I figure out what it is we need to do. And I sat out there, stood out there in the rain probably an hour, and I cried and cried and cried. And then my household cat arrived at the door, and my heart leapt, and I was like, that's it. Unconditional love from nature. Because people will let you down, as they did, and they have, and they will, because we're so human, right? So I went through film school, I became an emerging filmmaker, and I focused on the subjects of balancing matter and spirit. How do we live on the earth as spiritual beings in physical bodies? And I've always been interested in spirituality, and as a child, I went to a Unitarian church, which I loved, because we got to go to all the churches and different mosques. So I learned about other religions. And I was fascinated about the truth at the center of each of these religions. And I always was interested in sacred texts. And I wanted to travel the world and learn, how do we live in balance on earth? Fast forwarding, after film school, I did work as an actress as well. I became an actress, a model. I paid my way through university by modeling, fashion modeling. And then I was called to go to India. And I went there on a spiritual journey. And when I was there, I was drawn to go to this 10-day meditation retreat. And because I learned when I was 21 that we were going to be going through these big changes when I was going to be 60. Guess what? That's now. We are going through these incredible transformational times. And it is the time for women to rise. The divine feminine, we need to balance. The patriarchy's been going on for around 6,000 years. And it's time not for women to take over. It's time for us to find the balance and come together in sacred sisterhood and sacred brotherhood. So when I went to India, I just want to share that when I was meditating, it was really hard and I just couldn't shut up my mind. And I said to the teacher, you know, I'm not having any epiphanies. I want epiphanies. I want enlightenment. You know, I wanted to be enlightened. And he said, well, if I stuck your head in a bucket of water, you might think that breathing is more interesting. I was like, wow, that's pretty deep. And then on the 7th day, I had this very strange experience. I was meditating from 4 a.m. till 9 p.m. the entire day for 10 days, and we did not speak. So I was going within, And I started having these feelings that I was spinning and spinning, and I was like, I'm sitting in the lotus position, why am I spinning? And then all of a sudden I had this experience where a bubble popped up around me. And I felt like I was smaller than the bubble, and it felt like the bubble was my being, but I felt small within the bubble. And I felt this kind of whirring, and it was like this peace that was so profound. I was like, whoa, this is what Buddha's talking about. This is the inner peace that I had been reading about, and that I wanted to learn how to attain that, because I felt the suffering of the world. So I came back to Vancouver after 6 months of traveling, and I was meditating every day, and I was praying and meditating, and I was going within, and I was having these amazing synchronicities and magical experiences, and I felt so happy. Came back to Vancouver, introduced meditation to my friends. They're like, no, I can't do that, I can't do that. Anyways, time went on, and I was drawn to Japan next. And when I went to Japan, I wanted to make a film. I was teaching English as a job, and I wanted to make a film. And I thought, okay, I saw this article in the paper. Indigenous people were coming from North America to run 4,000 kilometers across Japan to carry the message that all life is sacred. It was going to be a spiritual run for peace from Hokkaido to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And as soon as I saw that in the paper, I slapped it with my hand. I said, this is it. This is my film. It included everything I love about peace, social justice, Indigenous people. How do we honor the land and each other? So I was very inspired, and I started to do the pre-production. I called the Sacred Run office, and they said, well, Dennis Banks, the Indian leader who is the organizer of this, he's away right now, but we'll let him know that you'd like to make a documentary film. Well, I was very naive back then, and I thought, I waited 10 months. I waited to hear from Dennis Banks for 10 months. And then I had a dream that I was praying to the spirit of my friend Milton, who had passed away while he was making a film about faith in India. And in the dream, I was praying to a spirit to help me make this film, because I didn't want it coming from my head. I wanted to be a channel for God, spirit, divine source, indigenous, great spirit. I wanted it to come from a higher place, not from my ego. So this dream was, my friend had given me these 3 toy frogs. And the toy frogs started jumping. And I started jumping with the frogs. And then there were 3 little girls, and one of the girls was telling stories. And I thought, isn't it wonderful how these 3 little girls are telling stories instead of playing video games? Now the next image in my dream was a burning bush, a tree that was all embers. And all the embers fell in a semicircle on the ground in this village. And everybody was like, oh my God, there's a fire. Oh, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And this little boy came up to the fire with a watering can. He tipped it, but no water came out, and the fire went out. And I knew that Milton had heard my prayer. And I woke up on fire. And I called the Sacred Run office, and I said, have you heard from Dennis Banks? Have you heard from Dennis Banks? Meanwhile, I had been doing pre-production in case he said yes, because I wanted to be ready to, get the money together and everything. They said, we're so sorry. We forgot to tell Dennis Banks. But he's actually in Japan next weekend, and they're preparing for the Sacred Run. If you want to go down, you can meet him. I said, oh, that'd be amazing. So I went down, and the time's running out. So anyways, I made this film. It took me 9 years to make. And while I was making it, you know what took me down? Not my courage, not my perseverance. What took me down was women who backstabbed me over and over and over. And I got smaller and smaller and smaller. And I thought, wow, if you do something extraordinary in life, they are going to hammer you down. So it's just too scary to do something extraordinary. When I came back to Canada, I had to finish that film. And I was, never learned business. So I just always tried, lived on a wing and a prayer. And it took me 9 years to raise the money to finish it. It just about killed me, that film, because I lost confidence in myself. And I thought, I just want to go back to the stars because I don't think people really get what I'm doing. And the National Film Board said, oh, Mother Earth stuff, that's passé. Indigenous wisdom, that's passé. I was like, do you realize what we're doing to the planet? Like, we need to wake up. We need to have clean water for 7 generations and beyond. We can't keep poisoning our earth that is our mother. So anyways, I did Landmark, I did therapy, and I got that film finished. 9 years later, I finished the film. Then fast forward to, I met my husband because I showed my film at a festival in New York, and he was there telling stories. He's a storyteller. And then I started a life with my husband. And I kind of just focused on him, like never been married. Let's just help my husband do his work. And I put my stuff on the back burner. Well, I got back on my horse and I got a lead role in a play and I made a film with my husband. And the night before my play and the night before my film opening, a dear, dear friend of mine who had been my girlfriend for 10 years, she wasn't happy that I forgot her birthday because I had Lyme disease, actually. That's why I forgot her birthday. She never forgave me, and she texted me a long text saying, you think you're so great just because you have a lead role in a film or in a play. You think you're so great because you're opening your film. Well, you're a terrible person and a terrible friend. Well, I was like, there's no way anyone is going to take me down anymore. So it hurt me though, because I value my sisters and I love forever, for eternity. So I really grappled with, how do I deal with this woman who keeps putting me down? Well, I decided to start learning how to lead women's circles, where women come together in collaboration and not competition.
Yes.
Where women don't tear each other down, where we lift each other up. And now I've been leading women's circles for 3 years monthly. And I launched my first program, Activate, Align, Ascends. And it's a chakra program where we go through the chakras. And I teach, or my message is, we are human and we are divine. We are of the earth and we are of the spirits. We have a mother and we have a father. And when we play small, we're not honoring what we are, why we came here. And I was laying in the lake saying, okay, God, what am I supposed to do now? This is probably around the time I started the women's circles. I need to earn more money because I was not earning enough money. So I was laying in the lake going, okay, God, what am I supposed to do? How can I earn money in alignment with my heart? I want to make more films, but I just didn't know how to get the money. I wanted to be an actress, but you gotta wait for someone to book you. You just never know, right? So the answer came to me in the lake, lead retreats. And the retreats was like, yeah, I can do everything I love. And then the women's circle started. And then just in December, I decided to step up and become a transformational coach. And now I have 3 clients. And it's a beginning, right? The baby blue jay feather. And my clients have told me that I've unlocked the keys to help them remember who they are. That they are divine, infinite potential, and that they're here for a reason. And even though I wanted to be a famous actress and I wanted to be a famous filmmaker, I know that my heart purpose now, my soul purpose, is to help women and men. I have two male clients as well. I want to help them remember who you are. And one of my clients, he told me, Andrea, I was about to kill myself. And then I found you. I will wrap it up, but I know, and I also was suicidal when I was making my film. But I read the book, The Power of Now, and I realized I was focused on the negative rather than the positive. And I decided a practice of gratitude was the way to go.
Yes.
And I said to God, God, if you want me to keep spreading this message of peace and love with my film, I need cash, because I was $60,000 in debt to make the film on my credit cards. 3 days later, I went on a date with this lawyer guy. The car in front of us was a convertible. All of a sudden, 3 money bills flew up from under the car. And it was like a cartoon. I was like, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. I said, that looked like money, didn't it? He said, yes. He said, do you want to go back? And I felt really embarrassed because I had $20 to my name at that time. I've always lived on a WYN prayer until now. And he got out of the car and I heard him, I said to him, yeah, you never know. It might be $100 bills for all we know. Because I was embarrassed, right? Anyways, I watch him get out and I hear him say, one $100 bill, 2 $100 bills, 3 $100 bills, and he hands them to me and my hands went up to God and I said, I will never worry about money again, God, thank you. I've been on a spiritual path and now at age 60, I'm discovering my worth.
Yes.
I was sexually abused and that takes away your worth, but I'm reclaiming my worth. And I'm with you, sisters. We are going to take it to the mountaintop. I invite you to join me in my Dragonfly Sistership Facebook group where I'll announce everything that I'm offering. And thank you so much.
Yay.
Can we please give a sincere heartfelt
Dragonfly, the medicine transformation.
Love it. Can we give another sincere round of applause? Wow, that was